Hello, Tampa Bay fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show, your online radio home for Tampa Bay sports talk and Rays postgame shows. Stay tuned throughout baseball season for live coverage after most Rays games with comprehensive coverage of all 162 games from April through October. Got something to say? We'd love to hear it. Give us a call, internationally toll free. 877-566-1020 or send us a tweet at WHBC Official. Don't go anywhere. Tonight's program will be starting in just a couple of minutes.
HBC.
Who can? The Yandy Man can. It is a good evening to you, and how you be? William Haynes here, you there, at 11:58 on this Monday night. This Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show is live from the WHBC studio in Clearwater, Florida. The wind in our sails tonight as the Rays, in walk-off fashion, win by a score of 9-8 over the Cleveland Indians. It looked like the game was going to be in doubt. They were at its worst down 8-5 after 6. It was the pitching staff once again giving up 8 runs on 13 hits. So it looks like the pitching may be on the way down, but recency bias perhaps. But I must say, I don't think we have seen this offense be as complete as it was here tonight. Of course, Margot in the leadoff spot, 4 for 4, and a sac fly mixed in there as well. So all productive at bats in the 5 times he came to the plate. You look at Randy and Wander each adding a clutch hit. Meadows in there as well. Choi with a couple hits. Lau with a grand slam off a left-handed pitcher, and even Kiermaier in the 9 spot with a couple of hits. And when he's at his best, one right up the middle and one the other way. So it looks like he has maybe found his groove here as well. And that came together and culminated with a game where they were able to score 9 runs, obviously, and win in comeback fashion. The 9th inning that we will never forget, seemingly, off of a closer in Emmanuel Clase, who was 10 for 11 in save situations on the year. He threw a fastball that went as high as 101 miles an hour, and he was not able to retire any of the 5 men that he faced. Of course, Franco with a double to tie the game and extended his hitting streak to 7 games. So, where's all that talk now about, Wander disappearing after that debut? He has actually been very strong, and he's got the average up to 229 now. And it was Yandy Diaz who had really a terrific game, and that's why he gets, the call-out, to open the show. Goes down as a fielder's choice, but with the bases loaded and no outs and a full count, a walk would have, scored a run with the bases loaded, etc. Puts the ball in play and drops in a run, just as simple as that. The throw not in time to get a Rosarena coming to home plate, and the Rays walk it off for the 4th time this season. They are now 13 games above 500 and are just 1 win shy of number 50 at 49-36. So, again, a game that certainly could have gone the wrong way, And the pitching and the defense as well, with 2 errors charged to them tonight. That is certainly not where you would like it to be, but with the All-Star break looming in just about a week, as now there is just 6 games remaining in this official first half going into the All-Star break, just the rest of this homestand. 2 more games against Cleveland, 3 against the Blue Jays, so that's actually just 5 games remaining, and then the Rays will have about half a week off, and I think that will give both the pitching and the defense maybe a chance to get rested up and get back in a position, and I think the offense hopefully will be able to stay hot as well. Also, since the last time we spoke, Mike Zunino is going to represent the Tampa Bay Rays in the All-Star game next week in Colorado. So, of course, congratulations to Zunino. He absolutely deserves it. 18 home runs in the first half, and that's 2 shy of the American League lead for catchers in about half as many at-bats as the leader Salvador Perez has had. So, unfortunately, Big Z not starting the game, but obviously he will get in there. And, again, representing the team alongside the manager, Kevin Cash, in the All-Star game. So that's very exciting. And, really, you look down 1 through 9. We've been talking about this for a while, when the lineup from the top to the bottom can be firing on all cylinders. They can, have multiple hits in an inning. They can score at multiple times throughout a game. The pitching, is the bullpen particularly, but the starters as well, that's not always going to be there in Rays fashion, because the very nature of the pitching and defense that this organization has been able to compile, it's for better or for worse, it's almost at an unsustainable level that they play at. I mean, putting zeros on the board night in and night out, and there are going to be stretches. It could be for a couple of days, a week, multiple weeks, even a month. We've seen that this season, where a particular group of your team is going to go quiet, and the bad teams, they let that put a fork in their season, and they they relinquish and they step back. But the good teams that can persevere, the other units on the squad will step up and pick up the rest of the team. And the offense, I think, especially to open the second half, has the ability to do just that. And you saw tonight exactly why that is the case, because they had a lot of contributing players in tonight's win. All kinds of guys getting hits in clutch situations. I think Yandy is probably hitting the best he has since late 2019. And for any of you that have been watching Yandy that long, you know that that's a really good sign. And I think he's finally got his swing back in order. And he's hit his now 4th home run of the year, but his 4th home run in the last 30 days. He did not have a single long ball in the first 2 months of the season. So I think Yandy has really found his groove. I think Wander is hitting very, very well right now. Needless to say, with Margot with the 4-for-4, it looked like he might have had some sort of hamstring issue, lower body, running up the line on that infield single to lead off the 9th. He's not one, as Cash said, to come out of a game. Brett Phillips had to pinch run for him in the 9th and did score the tying run. It's unknown if Margot is going to spend some time on the IL, but we'll probably know that sooner rather than later. And that would be, I would say, a blow to the team. But with 5 games left before the All-Star break, I can't foresee him missing, significant time. So as much as an injury could come at the right time, maybe the Rays have been, I think, very fortunate for the most part as far as injuries to their position players. It's pretty much just been the pitchers that have been hit by the injury. So I think they'll be able to work around that. And Choi, I think, really finding a groove now as well. And as we said already, Brandon Lau, with his 10th hit of the season against left-handed pitching, I think he's somewhere like 10 for 88 against lefties this year, which is just above a 100 average. But it seems like every single hit he has against a lefty is either a home run or just a gigantic hit, and where it comes in the game, and always leads us to believe that things may be turning themselves around. And before we head to break, let me just tell you, that was no cheapie either. It was 422 feet to right. It was a threat to head out to the scoreboard, if you can believe that. That's how well struck it was. And anytime the team scores 9 runs, it's a great thing. It was a thriller. I didn't think they would be able to pull it out. I was at the game. Just the feeling was not very good when they were down 8-5 and they had blown that 5-1 advantage. But and especially with this team, these kind of games aren't going to happen very often, but you celebrate it when they do. and you take as much positives away from it as you can. So with that being said, what we're going to do, take a short break. When we return, we have lots of things to discuss, not just tonight's win, but we also have a couple of games in Buffalo against the Blue Jays that we missed. And then still to come, we also will be talking the remainder of this Cleveland Indians series. The game tomorrow, as I know that you know, was postponed because of Tropical Storm now Ella, looming over the Tampa Bay area, and it, will be here breaking land tomorrow afternoon. So they postponed the game, and they're going to play a traditional doubleheader on Wednesday. So they'll play 2 7-inning games on Wednesday to complete the 3-game set. So it's going to be a little bit different on how the pitching matchups and everything line up, and we'll cover that at the end of the program. So again, a chock-full show today. If you would like to make yourself a part of it, obviously we would welcome that. Number of things you can do. You can call the show, talk with me, talk Rays at 877-566-1020. You can also tweet us your thoughts if you don't want to call in at WHBC Official. Just drop us a line what you're thinking about the team, and we'll read your thoughts and respond to it on the air. All that good stuff. So without further ado, we're going to take a couple-minute break, and we'll be back momentarily.
You're listening to the Rays postgame on the William Haynes Show. We're live most nights within 15 minutes of the final out to break down everything that happened in that day's game and take listener phone calls to get your thoughts. As always, you call the show at 877-566-1020 or tweet the show at WHBC Official. Like you to remember that archives of previous shows can be found on this show's page on Speaker.com and also on the WHBC YouTube channel. We look forward to having some of you on the show. Thanks for calling in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 636. Sports Radio
HBC.
And at 12:09 on this Tuesday morning, we return on this Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show. Once again, number to call the program, 877-566-1020. You can also tweet us at WHBC Official, and just go ahead and make sure you're following us on there as well for all updates and links to the show whenever we're live, all that good stuff. But without further ado, tonight's 9-8 win for the Tampa Bay Rays improves them to 49-36, so they're now 13 games above 500 and one shy of that number 50 mark, and they are 24-16 at home, and I believe they're on some kind of stretch. I want to say like they're 18-3 in their last 21 home games. They have been very, very good within the friendly confines of Tropicana Field as of late, and they dropped the Cleveland Indians to 42-40. They are now 21-21 on the road. They extend their losing streak to 7 games, so thankfully the narrative finally changing. The Rays have been playing a couple of really hot teams in the Nationals and the Blue Jays, and the results went accordingly, with the Rays losing both of those series. So they return home against a team that is not doing very well, and they do what they're supposed to, win the first game of the series. You would think going in, especially the pitching matchups even included, that this should have been a runaway series for the Rays, and for a while, at least Game 1 was absolutely in doubt. But thanks to some very clutch hitting and great offensive play. In total, they were able to come back and win. In 3 hours and 39 minutes in front of a paid attendance, myself included, of 8,832 was tonight's 9-8 win. Looking at the AL East standings, as it sits right now, the Rays are 4 games back of first. That's the Boston Red Sox at 53-32. Right now in the top of the 7th in Anaheim, the Red Sox are up 5-2 over the Angels. So if that result holds, the Red Sox will return to their division lead of 4.5 games. So it looks like the Rays will be down a handful of games, anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 games back, heading out of the All-Star break. So it is going to be one of those, as we've been saying, old school style pennant races for who will raise the banner of the champions of the American League East. It's going to be very exciting, and a lot of series down the stretch between those two teams. Just 2 series between the Rays and Red Sox in the first half, which counts for just 6 of the 19 games. So a lot coming in the second half for the team. But, of course, before you get there, you have to finish the first half strong. And the Rays had a chance to do that with a homestand against a couple of teams around 500 in the Indians and the Blue Jays, and kind of wash the bad taste out of their mouth that they've had since Tyler Glasnow going down. Since Glasnow's injury, I believe the Rays are 6-11, and in there was a 7-game losing streak. They had a 10-game road losing streak that they snapped Sunday in Buffalo against the Blue Jays. So, excuse me, a lot of things, like I said, that the Rays would like to cleanse themselves of, and a chance to do that here during this homestand. For the victorious Rays, it was 9 runs on 14 hits, 2 errors defensively charged to them, and they have been playing some sloppy baseball defensively as of late. Over the weekend, I know they had a handful, it seemed like 1 or 2 errors every day going against them. And those errors today, it was one from Brandon Lau on a throw to first that allowed a man to reach base free of charge, and then there was a play by Wander Franco where he was throwing to first to try and pick off the runner there, after a ground ball, or I believe he had, it was a line drive maybe, and he was going to first to get the out, and the throw gets away from the first baseman Choi, and then the runner's able to get all the way to third base. So you would say maybe a couple of unforced errors, and a defense that has been something that this team has been able to lean on a lot in the first half, has been something that has shied away, along with really just the pitching staff as a whole. Really, you want to look at it, the pitching, the starting pitching and the bullpen both have been very shaky as of late. So that side of the ball not going so well. The offense is going much better, you would say, as of late. And for the losing Indians, 8 runs on 13 hits, no errors defensively for them. So again, another game where the Rays give up a ton of runs and a ton of hits. I think out of their last 11 games, 5 of the last 11, they've given up at least 5 runs or more, and of course a lot of those happen to be more. So about half the games, they're giving up way too much runs than this team should. And, of course, they've lost a lot of those games, but you would say it would be worse if the offense hasn't been as good as it has of late. So that's something, hopefully, that will balance itself out, but only time will tell on that. The decisions for the pitchers, it was Pete Fairbanks coming out of the pen for the win. He's now 2-3 on the year. He pitched a scoreless 9th inning. He came into the game with the Rays down 8-7, so it looked like he was just going to try and keep the deficit to 1 going into the bottom of the frame. And Fairbanks, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about those Blue Jays games over the weekend, but it looks like Pete has taken some of his struggles personally and wanting to prove the doubters wrong. He has been tremendous his last 2 outings, quick, 1, 2, 3 innings, consistently dotting 100 miles an hour on the radar gun with the fastball, which is something he does not really do much of at all and has been doing a lot of lately. And we've talked about a couple of extended outings for him, 30-plus pitches, and thinking that maybe he's getting worn out. Instead, it looks like he's as fresh maybe as he's ever been, and is certainly pitching angry as well. So with the kind of that closer spot still up for grabs, as it has been for quite some time Fairbanks, I think, working himself now back into the good graces, of course, in Kevin Cash and what you would call the brain trust that goes into making some of those pitching moves throughout the course of the game. And for the Indians, getting the loss, it was Emmanuel Clase, I believe his name is pronounced. He's now 3-4 in the season and did not record an out in the ninth where he gave up a couple of runs, including the walk-off that was the Yandy Diaz fielder's choice that scored Randy Arozarena from third. As I mentioned, Clase had been 10 of 11 on save opportunities going into tonight and had been pitching to an ERA under 1.5. And it, was the Indians' definite closer, certainly, for most of the season. So that the fact that Cleveland could line up their A bullpen exactly the way that they wanted to, of course, with that 8-5 lead after 6, and the Rays were consistently able to score off of them. They scored a run in the 7th and 2 in the 9th, and they were scoring consistently throughout the game as well. But particularly to do it in the back end, I thought was impressive. Which is not something this team has done a ton of as of late. It seems like when they're doing really well in some of those winning streaks that they've gone on, it's more of getting runs off of the starting pitcher, getting the pitcher out of the game early, and then maybe getting into the bullpen later to add insurance runs, but with the game mostly in hand. Instead, more of late, they've been kind of letting starting pitchers off the hook and letting them get much deeper into a game than probably they should, and that forces them to have to come from behind late in games against bullpens and A bullpens at that, and with some of those teams, and they were battling that all weekend, really against the Blue Jays with some of those starts that those Toronto starters had. I mean, just quickly, Alek Manoah going 7 innings on Friday, Ross Stripling going 5 2/3 on Saturday of just a run, and on Sunday, Robbie Ray 7 innings of 2 runs. So that kind of performance, allowing those starters to work deep into games, you back yourself into a corner. But the Rays were able to work their way out of it, at least tonight, and it was certainly fun to watch. I'll tell you that much. The starting lineup for Kevin Cash and his Tampa Bay Rays. Defense first in the outfield from left to right. It was Arozarena in left, Kiermaier in center, Margot in right, and then in the infield from third to first, it was Yandy at third, Franco at shortstop, Lau at second base, Choi at first. Your all-star Mike Zunino did the catching, and the designated hitter was Austin Meadows. So I guess what you consider at this point a traditional lineup against a left-handed starter, with Margot and Arozarena both in the game. Franco starting at third base over Wendell. That was probably the main thing. And Brasso, he was on the bench. He stays on the bench in favor of Brandon Lau, who, as we mentioned, hitting just over 100 for the season against left-handed pitching. Lau gets the start today at second. So that was certainly the most surprising move. And you would say, obviously, it paid off with Lau's first career grand slam that came in his first at-bat in the second inning. So, obviously, most of the moves that Cash makes pays off, but we razz him a little bit when they don't, so we have to give him credit also when they do work out. The way that the lineup was ordered, it was Margot, Arozarena, Franco at the top, Meadows, Diaz, Choi in the middle, and the bottom three of Zunino, Lau, and Kiermaier. So, this is the lowest probably Lau has batted in his career, no pun intended, in the 8 spot. He's hit 6 a lot against lefties, and as he's continued, I suppose, to get worse and worse, the further he drops in the order. But I think really a compliment just to have him in the lineup at all. Personally, I would have had Brasso starting tonight, and certainly Cash knew something I didn't, as just reiterating that the move most certainly did pay off with the grand slam that he hit. And we've said it a million times, but hopefully this is the catalyst that can get his season turned around. He's not having a horrible season with 17 home runs, in the first half. That's just one shy of the All-Stars Zunino with 18. But hitting just 205 on the season and over 100 against lefties certainly leaves quite a bit to be desired. And then just other thoughts, get their best righties at the top, to attack the lefty starter. We mentioned that the last time we spoke, that's an approach Cash has taken with the lineup lately. Really just trying to be as aggressive as possible to open the game, more so on the road. But the strategy, I think, works just as well at home if you can get your pitching right. But Margot is an absolute firecracker at the top. I guess a little bit timely with that. And he led the game off with a leadoff single on the first pitch of the game. So my thoughts during that sequence was that's exactly what you want to make the starting pitcher uncomfortable. And the starter, Logan Allen, for Cleveland went just 3 1/3 tonight. So you would say maybe that had something to do with it, although it was erased by a double play ball. But Margot certainly did his job. Get a Rosarena in his pop from the right side up in the 2 spot, and Franco has batted either second or third in every game so far that he has played this year, and I think will continue to do so. Works great at bats, really in any point of the game. We've seen a couple of different approaches from him. Really, you would say maybe the first 6 or so games, and then I guess the rest of the games now, as Franco has now about, I think, 2.5 weeks or so under his belt as a big leaguer, just under, I guess, 2 weeks actually, as he's got 12 games played on the season. So will probably play the rest of the season. He's already got half a win above replacement already to his name in 12 games played. So you talk about value, any number you want to look at. I think Wander Franco, I guess if it's even possible, is being a bit underrated right now. I'm really excited about what he's bringing to the table. And then you look towards the bottom of the order. Yandy at the 6 spot, or rather the 5 spot. I thought would maybe hit a little bit higher, but and then Choi as well in the 6 spot, a lefty on lefty. That makes a little bit more sense to have him towards the bottom there. And that's certainly an approach that the Rays have been taking as of late. Really stack the opposite side high in the order. So if it's against a lefty, put all your righties at the top and all your lefties at the bottom, and vice versa, with the right-handed starter. And you would say with the run totals that the Rays have been putting up lately, that's a productive strategy. And honestly, I would like to see that continue. Going one by one quickly, Margot 4 for 4 with, I guess you call it 4 for 4. In my book, he's 4 for 5 with a sac fly. But I guess you don't count that as an at-bat. 2 runs knocked in on the day, no walks, no strikeouts, hitting .252. And he has really been a really solid contributor all season. With the clutch hits, is towards the top of the American League in hits with 2 outs. He's also a terrific 2-strike hitter. As I've said all the time, he can hit pitches anywhere in the zone, in any count, in any situation. And it seems like he's always coming through, and he's been nothing short of terrific. There is some concern, of course, with the hamstring in the 9th inning that he led off that infield single with in the bottom of the 9th. He had to come out of the game. They had Brett Phillips pinch run for him, and we've got no official word as of late. But also, as we mentioned, with the All-Star break coming up, just 5 games left in the first half. If he does have to stay on the injured list, you would think it would be just kind of a 10-day stint. Think back to Kiermaier in early April, if you'll recall, in Boston, in the same situation, legging out an infield hit. Same with the hamstring issue, and I think he spent just about 10 or 15 days on the IL and was ready to come back up. So probably at best, he's day-to-day. Probably won't play the rest of the series, but my money is that they maybe play it safe and just have him set the rest of the first half, on the bench on the IL. And there's interesting moves to be made. I've heard rumblings about Josh Lowe, one of the top prospects in the Rays system, the outfield type to replace him. Honestly, they're just fine with what they have. If you want to ask me, they could bring up, I honestly would bring up another pitcher, to be honest. Because of the outfielders you have. You've still got 4 outfielders on the roster with Kiermaier, Phillips, Arozarena, Margot, and Meadows. So they could certainly make it work. But we'll see which way they decide to go in that. Arozarena in the 2 spot, he goes 1 for 5 with a run scored. Also hitting .252 on the year. And he's been up and down as of late. Going into Saturday's game, he was hitting 179 in his last 11 games, and it doesn't look like that has changed much. He's been a little bit chilly as of late. I mean, grounded into a double play ball in the first inning, was popping up, flying out softly, had a weak liner out to the pitcher, so not making incredibly hard contact all night, but did hit a single in the ninth to go back-to-back and get first and second with nobody out to start that frame. So contributed when it counted most, but Randy is not having a great stretch as of late. I mean, his average has come down a lot since when he was at his apex, which was about 280. It's been sitting at 260 for a while, and as you said, now down at 252. So the hit totals have been coming down a bit as of late. Wander Franco in the 3 spot, and an interesting day at shortstop. I thought most of his plays were good, but of course that error on the throw to first that got away and out of play that allowed that runner at first to advance all the way to third. Probably should not have even made the throw at all. Probably should have just eaten it and let the runner, scamper back to first base. But playmakers make plays, as they say, and you would say certainly that was the mindset for Franco there. But and that's something he'll learn as he goes on. Again, he's just 20 years old, so you learn from those mistakes and you move on. And it didn't ultimately end up costing them too much, as they were able to work around it. But outside of that has been terrific. I think already 2 or 3 errors to his name, but I'm still impressed with what he's been able to do on that side of the ball. Also offensively, I think he's reached base in 10 of his 12 games. He's also riding now a 7-game hitting streak. That was in jeopardy of coming to a close in the 9th inning, but he ends up hitting an RBI double for his 3rd of the season, and gets on the board and continues that. Looking at that in the 9th inning off of the righty Clase, so moved to the left side, which he's been, I think, close to equal, but you would say maybe a little bit better from the right side. So that he's getting some of these hits from the left side is good. He was seeing 100 in the at-bat, and something that he has definitely struggled with lately. Good to see him go on velocity, because I want to say that's probably one of his first hits against 95, 96 plus. It was a 99 mile an hour cutter, kind of up and away from him as the left-handed batter, and it actually went down as a single. I called the double in my scorebook, but it was just a single, and scored a run as well. He was able to get the second on the throw, so more of a technicality than anything, but it looked like an extra base hit off the bat getting into the gap in left center. So just once more, great to see him hitting velocity like that. That's one of the last remaining boxes that I would like to see him check off, and tonight he was able to do that against a reliever in Clase that has been playing very, very well as of late. In the 4 spot, hitting cleanup, Austin Meadows, he goes 1 for 4 with a walk, no strikeouts. His average is up to 242, so he's actually been racking up quite a bit of hits as of late. It seems like I can't make up my mind on how I feel about Meadows, but has driven in about just as many runs as any hitter in the American League, this year. I think since May 1st. So if you just take out that opening month of April, he's been really good this season, and has his ups and downs. Certainly, he's lacked some consistency, but when he's on, he's very good. And he had a 1-out single in the 3rd that they were able to do nothing with, and was intentionally walked in the 9th to bring up Yandy. I mean, I understand righty on lefty, but if you're Terry Francona, why would you want to bring up Yandy Diaz in that spot? But as we said, the Yandy man can, and we'll move to him now. Yandy Diaz 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored, 2 knocked in. He's got his average up to 247, and on base that's been a little bit down lately at 372, and we'll talk about that not in a second. We'll talk about that now. For most of the season, Yandy's on base percentage has been at above around 400, meaning he gets on base 40% of the time. And while that on paper looks really good, I think he was not a complete player, especially offensively. He was a walk or an opposite field single guy, and not much else. There was not much with the power, the doubles, and home runs, and he was not a legitimate threat really when he came up to the plate. If you had a runner at second and 2 outs, and he walks, I mean, that's great to continue the inning, but especially if you're down, you want a guy that can drive in that run, that can move the baseball, and a lot of weak contact with Yandy. His swing has been off, certainly since the beginning of the 2020 season. And going into this year, it was said that he had taken off about 15 pounds or so, as had Meadows. And those are two guys whose names were connected that could have potential bounce back seasons, as they both really struggled and coincidentally hit back-to-back in the lineup tonight. And for Yandy, it seems like as of late the approach has changed, and maybe not the approach has changed, but just that maybe he's found his groove. He hit his first home run in that weekend series, the first weekend of June. I want to say it was June 5th or 6th that he hit his first home run of the year, and his first since August of 19. So he had gone basically September, all of October, April, May. So he had gone basically 3 or 4 months, depending on how you want to look at it, without a home run. A guy that had 14 in his 2019 campaign, and the guy that was at the top of the list of exit velocity guys in the league. And as I said, his swing had been off since the start of 2020. There was some concerns there. Would he ever be the same player? The guy that hit 2 home runs in the 2019 wildcard game that propelled them to the ALDS that season. So I think it's incredibly crucial for the Rays that Yandy return to that form. And as of late, he has. And we've seen not just a change in the numbers, but a change, really, I think, in his approach. It's safe to say, for most of the year, curveball, a 12-6 break that would even, break at the knees, or I guess kind of end there. He would take that pitch comfortably, and whether it was a ball or a strike, he would kind of move on with the at-bat. He was going up to the plate looking to take pitches, not really to hit. And that's why he was not really making any strong contact. He was not really ahead of anything, it looked like, really selling out on any particular pitch, because he didn't want to chase. His chase rate is one of the lowest in the American League, and it has been that way for quite some time. But lately, with a change of approach, I think I started seeing it the most on this road trip, but with 4 home runs, in the last 30 days or so, you can maybe even point to the beginning of June, but it's really culminated maybe over the last 7 days or so. He's willing to put himself out there more and swing at pitches that might be outside of the zone, especially breaking balls. He's really going after stuff. And it's going to reduce in some more strikeouts, which we've seen. The on-base percentage is going to dip a little bit. He's not going to be taking as many of the walks, but the doubles and the home runs, I think, really is where he provides the most value. So if we're going to start seeing that, I think that's going to be a very, very good addition to the lineup. And that 2019 team that seemed like they were just putting up a ton of runs every night. Yandy was a key contributor in that. Defensively, lacks a little bit to be desired. Nothing that he can really improve on. It's just him kind of as a player. He's, you look at his frame. He's a guy that's built to hit home runs and hit the ball hard. I mean, he's got those big biceps. He's a big frame guy. He does not move incredibly well, is my point. So to put him over at the hot corner at third base and expect him to kind of charge on weak ground balls and make a running throw to first base, he does not do that incredibly well. And there was a play tonight where someone was able to leg out an infield single. If Joey Wendell or Wander Franco was there, it would have been an out. But with Yandy, it's an infield single. We've seen the ball go right through his mitt. And that extra inning game against Boston, that was actually in Wander's debut on the 22nd of June. We've seen the ball kind of skip past him at third base. So with the way Meadows is and the way the outfield is, Yandy is not going to be able to DH a ton. But I think is going to play third base against lefties every day. And you find a way to get him maybe in at first base or whatever the rest of the days if Wendell is going to be in the lineup. And it's going to be tough, and it's a good problem to have to get all these guys playing time. But Yandy, I think in the second half, you'll see the power numbers go up. He could very much match that 14 home run total by the end of this season, and I think it's very likely that he'll end up doing so. The guy that could hit somewhere between 15 and 20 home runs if he heats up. And if he continues with this approach, and it looks like he's really found his power stroke again, like I said, really the sky's the limit. And getting back to that threat at the plate that he was a couple of seasons ago. Really, really looking forward. Yandy Diaz is probably the player most excited about not named Wander Franco going into the second half of the season. Just to give you an idea of how I feel about him right now. In the sixth spot, G-Man Choi goes 2 for 4, no walks and a strikeout. He's been playing well as of late too. A little bit of an up and down on the road trip, but finished it off strong, hitting now 270 and on base of 387. So those numbers look very, very good. Just right off the bat. I mean, opened the game with a double in the second. That was good for his 6th of the season, and then hit a leadoff single in the 6th. And outside of that, I mean, flew out to left and struck out looking in what was a questionable at bat from home plate umpire Dan Merzel. So a really good day for Choi, and love hearing the chants from the crowd every time he comes to the plate. And another guy that's really a threat right now every time he comes to the dish. Mike Zunino in the 7th spot, 0 for 3 with a run scored, no walks, and 1 walk and no strikeouts. His average down to below the Mendoza line, now at 197 and on base at 284. So I was really saying there's no way he makes the All-Star team hitting below 200, but lo and behold, his 18 home runs was enough to propel him there. And I don't say that to dog him. I love Mike Zunino. He's a valuable asset behind the dish, not just as a defender, but calling the pitches, putting the signs down, and really being there is the glue, I think, that holds the pitching staff together a lot of times. And I don't mean this to knock Mejia, but a lot of starters in this rotation, I think, perform significantly better with Zunino putting the fingers down, which means that Mikey is doing something right. And a veteran catcher and is having the best offensive season of his career. And it's great to see in his first career All-Star appearance. And a lot has been made of that in the papers and whatnot, and everyone that covers the Rays. And really happy for Mikey. Did not do a ton at the plate tonight. It was his first game at home since the All-Star thing, so it was good getting the attention for fans. He worked a walk with second and third and 2 outs. So that was a rare kind of approach for him. That's usually a spot where you'd maybe see him strike out. Or, he's hit a couple RBI singles in those spots, but a lot of times struggles to come through. But to be able to walk, and I think he was down in the count 1-2 at one point, and to take some borderline pitches, a power hitter like that with runners at second and third and just 1 out, he wants to put the ball in play. He wants to swing the bat. So to kind of have some plate discipline there and work the walk, take the walk that they're giving you, was really impressive. And outside of that, didn't do much. I mean, lined out to third base in the 4th, flew out and grounded out the rest of the way. And that was his night. And had a lot of pitchers coming and going, a lot of hits allowed. So wouldn't say that he was particularly valuable in that asset, but I don't think really he's to blame in that equation. Brandon Lau in the 8th spot goes 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored, 4 knocked in, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts with the grand slam, the first grand slam of his career. Hard to believe he's already got 17 home runs on the season, just 1 shy of the team lead. That's Zunino with 18. Looking at that pitch in the second inning, obviously the Rays able to load the bases with 1 out after that Zunino walk, and on a 1-1 pitch against the lefty Logan Allen, a fastball at 92, middle up, and Lau knows what to do with that pitch. Impressive to see him do that kind of damage, 422 to right on a pitch that's not on the inner half. If he's able to hit pitches on the outside part of the plate, or even in the middle third, that's a good sign for him to have some more success, because it seems like he's a little bit pigeonholed into that inside third of the plate, where he's really just trying to pull the baseball and hit it as hard as he can doing so. But really got a hold of that one, no doubt, 422 to right. And congratulations to Lau on the first Grand Slam of his career. And it was a huge jolt to the team, gave him that 5-1 lead. Eventually the Rays relinquished that in the 6th, but were able to come back and finish the win off anyway. And the rest of the night, he did walk in the fourth as well, but then struck out a couple times to close the game. But absolutely a terrific game for Brandon Lau. Kevin Kiermaier in the 9 spot. Made a couple of nice catches out there in center, as he always does, of course. 2 for 4 at the plate, no walks, a strikeout. Hitting now .232, so finding a groove, maybe offensively. I would certainly hope so. I did not realize this. Kiermaier only has 1 home run this season, and I want to say 13 runs batted in as well, which even for Kiermaier I think is pretty low. Yeah, 1 home run, 13 runs batted in, and way too much striking out. He had a 60th strikeout of the night in the 8th inning, so has been doing that certainly way too much. But tonight was an example of what he can be at his best, hitting a ball hard up the middle and hitting a ball where it's pitched to go the opposite way into shallow left. So, and he can always be a menace on the base path, so just getting on and hitting the ball hard for base hits is what we all want to see. And struggled to make contact throughout the course of the season, but you got to think that the hits are going to come somewhere for KK. He's going to hit a lot more than just 1 home run this year. We'll at least get to 10, but that would include a pretty solid second half. Obviously, he's capable of it. It hit, I think 2 home runs in the Fall Classic, and had several clutch hits in the postseason overall. So by no means was coming off a bad season. There's always ups and downs. Kiermaier is the poster boy of lacking consistency. Really, his whole Rays tenure, it's been about the player he could be, not the player he is. But even as he is, he's very good and a valuable defender. But just, I say this all the time, begging, can we just get more nights like these from him at the plate? It seems obviously that he's capable of it, but is always not able to put it together, to say the least. The pitching staff, not as much good news on this front. Getting the start was the 41-year-old Rich Hill. He goes just 3 2/3, giving up a run on 3 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Cash giving him a bit of a quick hook in the 4th after he hits a man by a pitch to load the bases. And that was the second hit by pitch they had in the inning, which is a bit strange for him. Not something that he does a ton of the time. At that point, the Rays were up 4-1. So that was after the grand slam, but that put the tying run on base. And at that point, Cash felt more comfortable going to the bullpen. The point I want to make is probably Cash should not have been, just based on how the bullpen has looked as of late. It's not a unit that you should be comfortable leaning on. And I know Cash, he loves his kind of votes of confidence to give guys confidence, but right now I don't think that's the right way to go. But Hill gets the hook after just 57 pitches, and that's another thing too. I understand the off days, and with the game postponed tomorrow, that gives you some more maneuverability, and just 5 games left before the All-Star break. But even with that, you got to be careful with your bullpen, because I think a big part of why they've been struggling is because of overuse. And you pull your starter after just 3 2/3 and 57 pitches. I have a little bit of trouble with that mindset. And the guys, the Cash he brought in didn't do much better than Hill. And for Hill, I thought he looked good, was good at establishing the first pitch strike. 10 of the 16 batters he faced, he started off 0-1, which was good. We saw some more of that slider at about 66, 67. The curveball in there at 71, 72. And that fastball at mid to high 80s was getting a good amount of swing and miss. I mean, he was fooling guys pretty consistently. He had retired the first 7 men out of the gate. And when you put that out there, it's amazing what Cleveland was able to put together. In the 4th, 5th, and 6th, the Indians brought 8 men to the plate in 3 innings in a row. I mean, that's terrific. They scored 1 run on 2 hits in the 4th, 4 runs on 5 hits in the 5th, and 3 runs on 3 hits in the 6th. So the bullpen was not able to basically get out of their own way. But for Hill, not a bad start. I thought certainly he could have. I mean, again, bases loaded with 2 outs. The 8-man Perez, the catcher, who he'd already given up a hit against, but I think that hit broke up like an 0 for 17 or something for him. So, and Perez, just for reference, to give you an idea, is hitting 130 on the season. So, why can't you just let Rich Hill face him and maybe get out of that fourth, and then at about 60 pitches, he could go probably 2 more maybe, even facing the order a third time through. But he decides to go to Drew Rasmussen, who really struggled the whole night. He got Perez to line out to first base, but it was hard hit off the bat rather. I mean, it was going to be a double if it got through, but luckily Choi was in perfect position and was able to make a jumping grab to leave the bases loaded for Cleveland. Rasmussen stays in the 5th inning, and while he was making good pitches, just worth noting, he ended one inning, came out to start another. I guess we should coin it, the Ryan Thompson effect when a pitcher does that. Not something Drew, I don't think he has done that as a Ray this year, but didn't show really much effect. The fastball was still good, 97, 98. I thought it was still placed well also, and the slider getting down. But in Rasmussen's 1 inning of relief, gave up 4 runs on 5 hits. It put his ERA on the wrong side of 5. He threw 34 total pitches, 24 for strikes. Gave up a home run in there as well. Was 7 for 8 in establishing the first pitch strike. I know that was similar for him the last time out when he gave up some offense. So I don't know, a little predictable, I guess. But when you're put 97, 98 well placed, most of the time you should be confident that you're going to be having some success. And his last time out, gave up 2 runs on 2 hits against the Nationals, and those were the first runs that he gave up as a Ray. And that was actually to start the game in front of, Waka, but that was a disaster of a day for the Rays. But for Rasmussen, and again, just emphasizing, I don't think was making bad pitches, but the Indians, a team that on the night finished with 13 hits. They were hitting everyone and everything. So a rough night for Drew. He gives way to Jeffrey Springs in the 5th. And he was able to strike out Bradley to leave a man on base, and then comes out in the 6th, and things unravel a little bit in the 6th. He struck out the first man and then walked the 9-man Mercado, and he had reached base the first 3 times he came to the plate. And I was getting flashbacks to that White Sox series where they just kept putting the 9-man on base in front of all those good hitters at the top. Not as much for Cleveland, the good hitters. I mean, geez, the team has been no-hit twice already this season, but boy, did they look good tonight. And then with a man on and 1 out and the top of the order coming up in the 6th in that big inning for Cleveland, they go to J.P. Fireeisen, who has been good as of late, but he gives up 2 runs on 3 hits. RBI single for Hernandez that I think was just a bloop hit. Like crazy, and that was after the Mercado had gone from first to third on that E6 for Franco, that throw that got out of play. Got Rosario to fly out for out number 2, so you think maybe you limit the damage, but then it gives up a single to Jose Ramirez, who had a great game, and an RBI double for Franmil Reyes. Personal note, during that Franmil Reyes at bat, the 2 RBI double, a foul ball into section 204, and I wasn't able to catch it, but it bounced over to my seat, and I was able to grab my first ever foul ball. All the games I've gone to, it's surprised me that it's taken this long to get one, but I know a lot of people go their whole life without getting a foul ball, so it was a cool experience. And certainly with the way the game finished, I'll be able to have a fond memory of it as well. And that was with JP on the mound, and I can first-hand account confirm, as the umpires can as well, there was no sticky stuff involved on the ball. I know JP was one of the top candidates with maybe getting into some trouble perhaps because a guy that was not in the Rays organization was playing with Milwaukee up until early June, so or late May rather, I think. But either way, for JP, a rough outing for him. He's got his ERA at 2.39, so still has been good so far for the Rays this year. since coming over in that trade, but a rough inning for him there. And again, the Indians bringing 8 men to the plate, 3 straight innings. I mean, they were just hitting everyone. It didn't matter if it was Rasmussen, Springs, Feyereisen. They were getting theirs against everybody. And then, thankfully, the offense was able to slowly but surely come back. And the late innings, the relief was very effective. Andrew Kittredge pitching 2 innings. I don't think he's done that very often, but they asked him to do it. 34 pitches, 24 strikes. And a guy that I've been worried about as a come back down to earth candidate, but was very strong tonight. Pitching a scoreless 7th and 8th, working out a little bit of trouble in both. But, yeah, I mean, he had men at second base in both of those innings and no runs come to score. And Pete Fairbanks, as we talked about already, working a quick 13-pitch inning 9th, where he was hitting 100 on the radar gun and has been fantastic his last couple outings, and I think is ready for a save situation should such come in one of the doubleheader games on Wednesday. I think he'll get the chance at least in one. I guarantee he'll pitch at the very least in one of those games. So rough for Rasmussen and Feyereisen specifically. A bit of a quick hook for Hill. I think he deserved the chance to maybe try and work through that, but he did put the tying run on base in a 4-1 lead. So, I mean, you kind of dig yourself into that hole yourself, but I feel pretty good about Hill right now. And the bullpen has had its ups and downs. I think breaking it down, you don't feel too bad about it. But Rasmussen and Feyereisen, both guys that had been fantastic this year, and coincidentally, both members of the trade, they both had bad nights. And interesting to see how they bounce back, because I think they're pretty important members out of the bullpen. But I think right now, Fairbanks, Castillo, and probably Colin McHugh are guys at least right now that you can lean on. So as the starting rotation tries to figure itself back out, the bullpen is going to be big, and getting those innings late in the game, wherever they may come in whatever kind of situation. So final thoughts on the game. Back and forth affair. The grand slam to make it 4-1. They had 5-1 after 4. They should have been able to hold on to that, but because of some big 5th and 6th innings for Cleveland, they end up trailing 8-5. And really credit the offense for coming back against an Cleveland Indians bullpen that had the Rays lined up probably exactly as they wanted to, and it still didn't work. And a bullpen that is probably Cleveland's best unit this year. If you would have to say, and great home run for Yandy Diaz to continue the run that he's been on with the power numbers, and just real quickly the kind of pitch that was off of 355 to right on a full count, so he could have worked the walk very well in that at bat. 2 outs, bases empty, and it was 93 up and away, and then he was able to hit an opposite field home run. Was very impressive as well, because the only home runs that I can remember were pull for Yandy. He might have had an oppo, but to hit with that kind of strength to the other way is impressive, and to get it up in the air, very nicely done for Yandy. And the power numbers will come in big fashion in the second half. I'm looking forward to it, and who could forget that wonderful 9th inning that the team had. It ended up being a single for Franco, so I got to take the double out of my scorebook for him there, as much as I want to give it to him. But a clutch hit for him with a couple of men on base, and then Yandy Diaz, who had already had a great night, to put the ball in play with bases loaded and no outs, and walk the thing off. So I want to say maybe Yandy's first walk-off as a Ray. I don't exactly know. I think now that I'm saying that might be wrong, but the 4th walk-off for this team this season, and good vibes all around. I think it could have gone much in the opposite direction with coming off of the bad road trip and everything. So an important win, and I'm hoping they can gain some momentum going into the break. We'll have to see as far as that over the next 5 games. So with that being said, we're going to take another break. When we return, talk about the 2 games over the weekend against the Blue Jays, and then also still to come a preview of the doubleheader on Wednesday to close out the home series against Cleveland. So still some good stuff the rest of the show. You can also call us at 877-566-1020. Tweet at WHBC Official. We're taking another break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey Rays fans, William will be right back. We're in a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us internationally toll-free at 877-566-1020 or tweet us your thoughts at WHBC Official. Also, we'd like you to stay tuned for William's other podcasting projects at speaker.com/user/WHBC.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC.
And at 12:57 on this Tuesday morning, we were back on the William Haynes Show. We are now discussing the Saturday and Sunday games in Buffalo against the Blue Jays. On Saturday, it was a 6-3 loss that closed out the series victory for Toronto. It was Shane McClanahan on the mound for the Rays against Ross Stripling of the Blue Jays. It was George Springer hitting a home run off of Shane, just a fastball that was left too much middle that Springer made him pay for in the first time that the Rays have had to see Toronto with Springer in tow, and a lineup that's at its best right now. I think they're going to have probably a strong second half as well, and would not be surprised to see them overtake the Yankees for third place in the division. Hopefully they don't come anywhere near the Rays, that's for certain, because they're a team certainly to watch out for, especially if the pitching continues as to what we saw. Margot tied it up in the fourth with a home run of his own. Surprised that was only his 9th home run of the year. It seems like he's already hit a bunch, but I guess maybe for him that is a decent amount. I mean, he's on point for about 20 this season. If he continues so, that would be good. Then in the 6th, things unraveled a bit. Looking at that, it was Shane McClanahan to start the inning, and he had worked into a bit of a jam, a double and a walk. And so they take him out. And who do they bring in a tie game in the 6th with men on base? They bring in Matt Whistler. That was with, the 9-game road losing streak and the 4-game losing streak overall at that point. And that's who you go to keep it close. Doesn't work out. A bunch of hits, including a home run for Whistler, and the second home run that he's allowed. And his last few outings has not been so great, and we're starting to see maybe why the Giants designated him for assignment. I'm not quite sure what his future is as a Ray just yet, but you throw an 82-mile-an-hour slider every pitch. Some guys, including good hitters mainly, are going to be able to figure you out, and they did. And how Fairbanks with a strong inning, Fire Eisen with a strong one as well to close it out in the Rays, making a bid at a comeback late. They scored 2 runs in the 9th, a 2 RBI single for Kiermaier, but they're not able to complete the comeback. Also of note, Shane McClanahan, another very good start for him. I think overall the box score maybe not as indicative, and mainly because of the finish that he had. 5 1/3, 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, a home run allowed, as we talked about. 71 pitches, 44 for strikes, 11 of 22 in the first pitch strike. So that certainly was an issue. But I think that was just the Blue Jays reading him very, very well. But the sequencing from Zunino, again, was great. We see the game plans continue to expand for him. I mean, we were seeing first pitch change-ups, first pitch curveballs, and then feed him the fastballs. Then late in counts, go to the slider down and in. That was terrific. So for the first time that I can really remember, working all 4 pitches and doing so effectively, especially early in the game, he was really, really good. And like I said, you can mix up the sequencing as you want. Use the change up of the curveball maybe later in counts, but mostly opening up. And that fastball, the placement still is concerning. Not quite getting good control of it. I think that's going to be an issue for Shane. But the slider looks terrific lately, and I think that's going to end up being a really good pitch. And just a day where the offense was not able to put together much of anything. A bullpen for Toronto that has not been great was able to lock it down. So that was unfortunate and extended their road losing streak to 10 games. Their losing streak overall to 5 games, and that leads us into Sunday's game, which was a 5-1 win for the Rays to get off the schneid. It was Yarbrough for the Rays with Robbie Ray of the Blue Jays going for them. As we talked about, Robbie Ray giving the Jays a long start, 2 runs over the 7 innings, but thankfully they were able to get some runs off of the late pennant and Rafael Dolis specifically, which always seems to have a bad game against Tampa Bay. And Yarbrough, not a bad start. Could have gone longer, but you understand Cash wanting to go aggressive with the bullpen. He goes 5, a run on 4 hits. And Colin McHugh was terrific. 3 innings of scoreless relief. Since coming off the injured list in May with the back stiffness, he has pitched 28 innings, allowing just a run. So, I mean, that's really the pitcher that he's been most of the season with an ERA under 2. And 2 or 3 innings out of relief, out of the pen, when you want to lock down a game, that's a valuable asset to have. Castillo also with a scoreless frame as well. Franco hit his 2nd home run as a big leaguer, and it was a slider that he was able to, I want to say take the opposite way, but that slider down and away. And it was the oppo. Just kind of a slicer, and the first one of those that we've seen. So that was cool. And then they were able to score on a Meadows double. He doubled again in the 9th for some insurance, and they scored a couple more runs in the 9th. So some runs off that bullpen was good to see, and a great game offensively for Meadows, and for the pitching staff overall was effective. The quick hook that time paid off, and I think maybe Cash trying to go back to the well tonight didn't quite work as much with how the relievers went. So with that out of the way, the last thing that we have is the doubleheader, because there's no game tomorrow. It got postponed because of the upcoming tropical storm that's due to hit Tampa Bay. So instead, they'll play a traditional doubleheader on Wednesday. The game 1 still to start at 12:10, with noon Eastern basically, and I'm sure the game 2 starting somewhere around 3:30. And in game 1, it'll be the righty J.C. Mejia going likely for Michael Wacha of the Rays. It doesn't not look like we have anything as far as pitching matchups go, because they won't have to put that out for a couple days, but we'll go with what we predict. So going for the Indians in game 1, the 24-year-old right-hander J.C. Mejia is 1-3 with a 6.18 earned run average. So the Indian starters, which has been really the best part of their team in some of those playoff runs they had as of late, they're a long ways from that. Shane Bieber, really the last member of that rotation they have left, who's an all-star, and the Rays are going to be able to miss him in this series. Mejia's last time out against the Astros got the loss, 6 runs on 5 hits over 4 innings, a couple of home runs, a couple of walks, 3 strikeouts, not very good at all. Was in the bullpen, it looked like, to maybe start the year, and then ended up being a starting pitcher. His best start, 6 innings of a run on 4 hits against the Twins. That came on June 24th. But looking at his scouting report, it looks like he's got a fastball at about 93, 94, a cutter a couple miles an hour less. He's got a changeup at high 80s, and then a curveball, it looks like at low 80s. So can make some stuff up, but the last time on the mound, he got hit around by a pretty good Houston lineup. So hopefully the Rays can ding him up the same with the 7-inning doubleheaders, you would imagine the quick hooks for the starters. So maybe Cleveland could work around that, but we'll have to see. 7-game losing streak again for the Indians, so the Rays catching them at the right time. And for the Rays, likely in Game 1, Michael Wacha, the 30-year-old right-hander, 1-2 with a .526 earned run average. His last time out, not so good. 3 innings of work against the Nationals, 5 runs on 7 hits, 3 homers, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Came in, in the middle of the game. A couple of pitchers had already pitched before him and had been up and down in the bullpen, all that stuff. His last traditional start was against the Red Sox, 5-inning shutout on just a hit. So hopefully more of that than the 5 runs and 7 hits he gave up his last time out. But I'd imagine Wacha probably to start in a 7-inning game. If he gives you 4 or 5, you can lock it down pretty strong from there. I would imagine the 2 starters in the doubleheader, Wacha and Fleming, probably go 4 innings each, and then you can line up the bullpen 3 innings, the rest of the way with who you see fit. Maybe in Game 1 it's Castillo, Fireisen, Fairbanks, and then in Game 2 you go back to Rasmussen for an inning, or Springs, Kittredge, and line it up that way. Looking at Game 2, somewhere around 3 o'clock or so, it's going to be the lefty Sam Hentges. For Cleveland, the 24-year-old left-hander is 1-3 on the season with an .822 earned run average. His last time out, also against the Astros, 6 runs on 6 hits on just 2 2/3 innings pitched, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Was not very good. He doesn't have a start longer than 5 innings this year. That was on May 24th against the Tigers, and lately has not been going deep into ball games really at all. Has been pitching rough lately. He's not had a good month really at all. An 8.22 ERA, pretty much bears that out. Looking at the scouting report for him, low 90s with the fastball, with a kind of a sinker off of that, and then looks like just a curveball and a slider off of that. So he's got some movement, but kind of like who they saw today in Logan Allen. A couple of different pitches, but throwing 91 over the plate. If your offense is having a good night, they're going to be able to hit that around. So hopefully that will be the case, and I'd imagine they both have some pretty short starts for Cleveland. Going for the Rays, most likely, if he's activated off the injured list with the calf issue. If not, they would presumably have to call someone up because they sent Patino down. So that leads me to believe that Fleming will be good to go. The 24-year-old left-hander is 6-4 on the season with a 3.19 ERA. I can't believe he's already had 10 decisions. That's pretty wild. And has only pitched 66 innings this year. His last time out against the Angels, 3 2/3 of a run on 2 hits. A walk, 2 strikeouts. Was going well, but the quick hook, likely because of the injury. The time before that, 6 1/3, 5 runs on 7 hits against the Mariners. So not so good there. But a guy that works pretty efficiently every time he's on the mound, and is hard to square up, is very frustrating to face. And all they need is about 4 innings out of him. So if they can get that, they'll be in good shape, and I think he'll be more than ready to be able to give them that. But they may decide to go opener. I don't know what. We haven't seen them go, opener and a doubleheader or anything like that in a while. This is the first postponement of the season for the Rays. Just one of 2 teams that have yet to have one, the Rays and the Rangers. The last one of those I think the Rays had was, I want to say it was that rain out in Buffalo last August. And they also had another game against the Orioles postponed for the civil unrest that was going on in the country during that time. So they did have and then they had one against the Yankees. So they had played 3 doubleheaders last year, but none so far this year. And it's going to be different with the 7 innings. I'm probably in favor of it. A lot of people don't like it, but I come down the same way on the extra inning rules. The last thing I need is for baseball to be longer. So 7 inning games, I'm fine for them. If you got to play 2, 14 is probably better than 18. And 7 innings is still enough to determine a winner. I don't know why people are all up in arms about it, but maybe if the Rays get jived a little bit and they're coming out on the losing end, we can be upset. But either way, hopefully they'll be fine. And if they split the doubleheader, the Rays win the series. So all they got to do is split, and nothing to bellyache about. Last thing really before we get up on out of here, programming note, no game tomorrow, so that means no show. Doubleheader Wednesday afternoon means a show Wednesday night. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final for the Lightning will be taking place at 8 o'clock, 8:30 about that time. I'm going to be honest with you. If they win, we might not be on the air at all because, I understand Tampa Bay fans. There's not much market for, Rays post-game show. It's talking about a June or July doubleheader if the Rays win, or if the Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup. But if they lose, we'll be on the air after the Lightning game. I'm not going to go on the air during the game. So definitely just stay tuned. Follow at WHBC Official. You get the show when it goes live on there, the link to it, so you can catch the show from the very beginning, all that good stuff. So with that, we are going off the air. Appreciate everyone sticking with us the last couple of days. I know I was, kept pushing the show off, what we're going to do the July 4th weekend. Being a little bit hectic. We're going to, I know it's going to be weird this week as well with what's going on with the Lightning and the Rays postponements and whatnot. But hopefully in the second half of the season we can get back to a more routine schedule and get a rhythm, going night in, night out with post-game shows. Appreciate everyone that's continued to listen to the show as well. I appreciate your loyalty to the program. We'll be on most likely Wednesday night. Definitely stay tuned though. Rays with a doubleheader against the Indians. As always, we'll see you then.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.